skin that was such dark blue that it was initially mistaken for cardiac arrest. Like they thought she was dying. They had no idea why their skin was blue. Literally and metaphorically, the blue Fugates remind us of the spectrum that exists in between. Could any of these people have children born with blue skin again today? Hi, I'm Danielle Romero, and thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about family history and American identity. And today I want to tell you the story about the blue Fugates of Kentucky. But first I want to tell you about a baby that was born in 1982. The boy was named Benjamin Stacy. He inherited more than just his father's build or his mother's speech pattern, because from his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Martin Fugate, he received something far more unusual: dark blue skin tone. His father recalled it as almost purple in the hospital. And medical staff, as you can imagine, were extremely concerned. They ran exhaustive tests on him for 2 days, transferred him to a larger hospital, but there was no medical explanation, according to sources at the time. He looked bruised. And they were contemplating doing a blood transfusion, which is a big deal, especially for a newborn. But then suddenly Benjamin's grandmother intervened. And she asked the doctors if they had heard of the blue Fugates from Troublesome Creek. Benjamin's father kind of elaborated on that. And he said, "My grandmother Luna on my dad's side was a blue Fugate. It was real bad in her." The medical team eventually came to the conclusion that this was actually an inherited trait, the blue skin in the new baby. And it was a remnant from lineage going back generations. Now, interestingly, Benjamin's blue skin faded in a few weeks, but if he was cold or upset, his lips and fingernails turned like a purpley blue shade. So imagine, if you will, a remote place in eastern Kentucky. Among the hills is Hazard, which was a small town that would become the unlikely epicenter of this genetic enigma. This is where our story begins in the early 19th century with a family who would challenge the very perceptions of human biology. But interestingly enough, even though we're talking about Kentucky, it was research on Native Alaskans that revealed a critical piece of this puzzle. So Martin Fugate was a French orphan, and he arrived in Kentucky in 1820, claiming a land grant along Troublesome Creek. Now, this area was known for its really challenging terrain, and it was very isolated communities. And this becomes the backdrop for the family story that spans generations. Martin was unaware of the legacy that he carried in his genes. Martin marries a redheaded woman named Elizabeth Smith, and together they have 7 children. But this is where the story takes a complete turn. 4 of these children are born with blue skin. Blue. Not like metaphorical blue where I've got the blues, but literally a physical blueness that was extremely conspicuous. So, settling in the rugged hills of eastern Kentucky, Martin, along with his wife, Elizabeth Smith, unknowingly passed on a rare recessive gene, and the family's isolated Appalachian home led to intermarriages within this community, perpetuating this unique genetic trait. But you have to remember, Martin actually was from France. So it's not like, people will look at this and say, well, it's because there's inbreeding there.
Okay, Dad, it's not technically inbreeding, it's...
But he's an immigrant from France as a child. He's coming in, but he didn't know he had this recessive trait. But the isolated community plays a huge role in perpetuating this later on. And so by a strange coincidence, Fugate marries a woman with the same rare genetic trait that he had. And it wasn't immediately obvious, though, because unlike Fugate, Smith had only one abnormal gene. So it was recessive. So her skin looked peachy white, not blue. But it did mean that there would be an extremely high chance that the couple would pass the condition on to their children. Now, Troublesome Creek was a small settlement. There was no roads or railways to connect it. This meant that, the local girls and boys didn't have like a huge supply of potential partners. So you do end up with a lot of intermarrying. Fugate and Smith's son, Zachariah, actually ended up marrying his aunt. Remember, though, Fugate was from France. The issue was not a result of inbreeding, so to speak. The exceptionally close-knit nature of the community did serve for being an ideal environment for the proliferation of this blue skin genetic condition, and it just snowballed from there. The Fugates' blue skin made them stand out in their community, and it led to more isolation and stigmas. The blue skin was a source of embarrassment and even mystery to themselves. They had no idea why their skin was blue. And then the Appalachian region, known for rich storytelling and tradition, was also pretty superstitious. And so that kind of added to the alienation of this family. But beyond their blue skin, the Fugates actually had another distinct trait. Their blood was a chocolate brown color, which was a result of their condition, but we're going to get to that. Now, in the 1960s, there was a doctor named Madison Cawein, and he was intrigued by the rumors of these blue-skinned people. And he embarked on a mission with a nurse named Ruth Pendergrass to locate them. It was not easy to find them. Their quest through the hills of eastern Kentucky was fraught with challenges. So he was a hematologist, and he was extremely interested in this story. he was determined to find these people and figure out what's going on. Remember, hematologist, they study blood. Pendergrass had actually previously encountered a similar case. It was a woman from the Combs family who had skin that was such dark blue that it was initially mistaken for cardiac arrest. Like they thought she was dying. This woman had come in for a blood test, and then it revealed that she was belonging to the, quote, blue Combses of Ball Creek. And this nurse, her interest was piqued, and she wanted to kind of figure out, well, who else has this and what's going on? So together, Dr. Cawein and Nurse Pendergrass embark on this expedition through the hills of eastern Kentucky to find these blue people. They couldn't find them, or they didn't want to be found, and they were just about to give up. Just at the end of their journey, two blue siblings from the Ritchie family unexpectedly walked into the heart clinic, and they offered a direct insight into the mysterious condition that everyone was so eager to understand. How did Native Alaskans help solve the mystery of the blue people from Kentucky? Well, this intriguing question actually led Dr. Cawein down a path of medical discovery, bridged these two distant communities to shed light on this rare genetic condition. So he explored medical literature from everywhere. He was just digging into everything. And it was during the search that he came upon a strikingly similar case that involved Native Alaskans who also displayed this blue-tinged skin. And so the research on this community was a critical piece of the puzzle. The Alaskan subjects were found to suffer from methemoglobinemia, a condition that arises from this enzyme deficiency. And we won't get into all the scientific parts of that, but basically this was a revelation because it resonated with all of the symptoms that were exhibited by Kentucky's blue people. So the parallel between these distinct populations was a huge breakthrough. And so after further examination of the blue-skinned Kentuckians, it was found that they lack these sufficient levels of a certain enzyme. And this enzyme is vital for processing hemoglobin, which transports oxygen in the blood. So in its absence, the body produces an excessive amount of methemoglobin. Typically, less than 1% of your blood is made up of methemoglobin. However, for the Fugates, the doctor discovered they had levels between 10 and 20%. So this abnormal concentration, it wasn't high enough to cause harm, but it was enough to alter their skin color. And so it kind of overwhelmed the normal red hemoglobin, leading to this distinctive blue coloration in the chocolatey brown hue of the blood. So it was really interesting to see that this research on the Native Alaskan community was the crucial link in solving the mystery for these people in Kentucky. It turns out that they were able to give them something to turn their skin back to the color it was intended to be. It was a shot of methylene blue, which is a medication and a dye. And I don't understand how the blue dye affects the blueness in their body.
Above my pay grade.
But basically, they were given these pills they could take for the rest of their life if they wanted to, get rid of their blue skin. But this was in the 60s. Could any of these people have children born with blue skin again today? Yes, they could. So they could inherit the condition because it's a genetic condition. It's not really necessarily due to inbreeding, but there's this issue of if you have enough people that have the gene and they're getting married, then so it's not because there was inbreeding, but there's going to be more of this in a very tight-knit community. And what I think is just absolutely awesome about the story is that, one, knowing your family story, knowing your ancestry is important in so many ways. But I think it also unfolds this broader narrative about the wonders of human genetics. And in the world we are in, people are pretty binary. Are you white or are you black? Both literally and metaphorically, the blue Fugates remind us of the spectrum that exists in between. Their unique blue hue is a testament to the unpredictability and diversity within our genetic codes. This story just totally surprised me. I really had no idea where it was going when I was researching it. Let me know if you've heard of the blue Fugates and what I might have forgotten. And if you'd like to watch any videos I've done on Melungeon or Redbone ancestry, I'll leave a link to that below. And I would love to stay connected with you. I'm a little worried about getting deplatformed on YouTube. So if you want to sign up for my email list below or follow me on Twitter, I would love to stay connected, and we'll talk soon.